The sound of bone cracking is something you never forget. Neither is the moment you realize your own family sees you as disposable. I was 15 when my father picked up that red brick from our driveway. Not in anger, not in the heat of the moment, but with the cold calculation of someone putting down a rabid animal. My sister April had done what she always did. Provoked me, lied about it, and watched with those practiced crocodile tears as I got blamed. But this time was different. This time my father didn't just yell or slap. He grabbed that brick like he'd been planning it all along, and with one swift motion, brought it down on my knees with enough force to shatter bone. "Now you don't run that mouth no more," he muttered, dropping the brick like it disgusted him. The worst part. My mother stepped outside with her coffee, looked at me bleeding on the gravel, and laughed. "That's what useless things deserve." That was the moment I died inside. But it was also the moment something far more dangerous was born. For the next decade, I lived in hell disguised as a family home. April, the golden child, could do no wrong. She got everything: new cars, travel funds, even a personal trainer. Meanwhile, I became their punching bag, their daily reminder of what disappointment looked like. They never took me to the hospital. 3 days I spent in my room, knees swollen purple and black, listening to them laugh downstairs about how some kids just don't know their place. But during those 3 days of agony, something crystallized in my mind. I wasn't going to scream, cry, or beg for their love anymore. I was going to plan. By age 26, I was still living in that house, playing the role of the broken, defeated child they wanted me to be. My knees had healed crooked, leaving me with a permanent limp, their daily reminder of their power over me. But what they didn't know was that I'd been living a double life. While they thought I was wallowing in depression, I was working night shifts at a warehouse under a different name. While they assumed I was too stupid and broken to amount to anything, I was taking business classes online. And while they celebrated their perfect life, I was meticulously documenting their crimes. You see, my father was clever enough to commit tax fraud, but stupid enough to put everything in April's name. The house, the cars, the hidden assets, all registered to my dear sister. That gave me something they never expected me to have: leverage. The final trigger came on a Tuesday morning. April poured her green smoothie over my backpack because I breathed too loud in the kitchen. My mother took a photo, giggling about framing it, for when she finally crawls away for good. My father just walked away. That's when I knew it was time. I'd spent 2 years collecting evidence, storing it in boxes in a rented storage unit across town. Tax evasion documents, fraudulent charity records, forged signatures. Everything they'd done to cheat the system while calling me worthless. The first package didn't go to the police. It went to every single creditor my father owed money to, every fake charity my mother had been funneling donations from, every landlord who'd been lied to about rent payments. Within a week, their perfect world started cracking. Their accounts froze. Bills doubled overnight. April got furious calls from people demanding money she thought she didn't owe. My father accused my mother. My mother blamed April. And April. She threatened me. But I was already gone, watching from a tiny apartment across town as their house of cards began to tumble. The second envelope was personal. Inside was a photo I'd taken months earlier. Me holding the same brick my father had used to break my knees. Below it, one sentence written in April's own handwriting, copied from a forged document. "She doesn't deserve anything." April knew exactly what it meant. She knew who was behind their sudden misfortune. And she knew I wasn't finished. She tried to keep up appearances, posting Instagram photos with champagne and captions about being unbothered, blessed, better. But I could see the fear in her eyes. She was finally experiencing what I'd lived with for years, the terror of not knowing when the next blow would come. My father's prized red sports car vanished overnight. Turns out, when you fraudulently transfer ownership to a fake charity for tax benefits, eventually the debt collectors come calling. One anonymous tip to the right people, and his first love was repossessed and auctioned off. My mother's charity work unraveled next. A former volunteer, someone I'd carefully contacted, came forward with evidence of donation fraud. The local paper picked up the story, complete with photos I'd secretly taken of my mother mocking the very women she claimed to help. April's identity began rotting from the inside. Every asset in her name became frozen as banks investigated the fraud. She filed complaint after complaint, but nothing worked. Her threats turned to apologies, then to desperate begging. I never answered a single text. While their world burned, I found my purpose. I started volunteering at a real women's shelter, the same type of place my mother had pretended to support. They called me Mara, never asking about my limp or my past. For the first time in my life I felt useful, valued, human. I fixed pipes, organized donations, filed records. The women there reminded me of what I could have become if I hadn't found my strength. Some nights, I'd go home to my small but clean apartment and realize something beautiful. I was free. After almost a year, I returned to the house that had been my prison. The front door was unlocked. They couldn't afford security anymore. The walls were bare, furniture gone, the smell of regret and cheap cleaning products filling the air. They sat in the kitchen like ghosts of their former selves. My father's hands trembled as he read another foreclosure notice. My mother looked hollow, her makeup smeared. April stood against the wall, finally looking as broken as they'd always made me feel. "What do you want?" my father whispered. I placed the brick on the kitchen counter, the same one he'd used to shatter my knees and my childhood. Then I set down a photo of myself at 10 years old, smiling on the same porch where he'd broken me, before I learned what monsters lived in my own home. On the back I'd written, "You had everything and you made sure I had nothing. Now you get to keep it." "I'm not taking your house," I told them calmly. "I'm not draining your money. I'm not destroying you publicly because none of you are worth that effort. I already took what mattered, your names, your masks, your pride." My mother's mouth opened but no sound came. April stepped forward, tears finally real for once. "Please." I shook my head. "You dipped my toothbrush in toilet water and called it discipline. You laughed when I couldn't walk. You said I was born useless." I looked around at their barren house, their shaking hands, the deafening silence. "Now you get to live like I did, crawling for scraps, knowing no one's coming to help." And I walked out forever. Today I live in another state under my chosen name. Sometimes I limp. Sometimes I cry when I brush my teeth. But every morning I use a clean brush, a clean sink, and see someone whole in the mirror. Behind me, no one. They called me useless. I showed them what useful really looks like. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting everything they said you'd never have. Peace, freedom, and the last laugh. Remember, sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one planning the loudest revenge. Don't mistake silence for weakness. It might just be strategy.